or researched here on my channel. You guys voted for a solved case both here and over on Patreon. So that is what I have been working on this week. I hope you enjoy. I have no idea what I'm gonna do next week, so just hang on for the ride. Anyway, as you can tell by the title of this case, this is the case of Haylee Anderson. 22-year-old Haylee Anderson was described as an incredible woman. She was from Long Island, New York. She was talented, hardworking, and passionate. She was always there for her loved ones, and she had this fun, really caring attitude that instantly drew people to her, and she basically just made friends everywhere that she went. In 2018, Haylee was pursuing her nursing degree from Binghamton University in New York. She was a fifth-year senior who was all set to achieve her dreams. She was okay with being a fifth-year senior because she knew that this was what she wanted to do with her life. She even had a job lined up for her before she graduated. Her plan was her long-term dream, I guess, was to move to California, buy a hippie van, and travel the country as a traveling nurse. She was just kind of that carefree type of person. Unfortunately, Haylee's plans did not come to fruition, or we would not be talking while he waited for her to come home, and he would drive by the house at odd times to make sure she was home, and he just, like, stalked her constantly. He was becoming a Class A1 creep, and things were getting really scary for Haylee. In September of 2017, Orlando throws a party, and he invites Haylee. Now, I don't know why, but Haylee decides to go. At this point, she and Kevin have patched things up, and they decide to go to Orlando's party. Like, they're all friends, right? But seeing Haylee with Kevin enraged Orlando, he just could not accept the fact that Haylee had chosen Kevin over him. He confronted them, and it turned into this huge argument. There was a lot of yelling, and everyone at this party felt super uncomfortable. Orlando kind of tries to smooth things over by playing like really good music and making sure everyone was doing shots and having fun, but he himself was pretty drunk at that point, and he actually started getting sick and had to leave. It wasn't even his place that they were having the party at. So Haylee and Kevin like ditch this party. They're like, no, we're not fighting. I'm not doing this. So they go back to her house, and Kevin spends the night. The next morning, as Kevin goes to leave, he notices that someone has slashed Haylee's tires. All 4 of them. Kevin, of course, accuses Orlando, but Orlando's like, man, I was drunk. I didn't leave. I didn't do anything. The police estimated the damage to be over $600, which makes it a felony charge. However, Haylee realized that if she pressed charges and it was proven that it was Orlando, he would be kicked out of the university, and he would even be deported to Nicaragua, where he was from. And Haylee was this empathetic, really kind girl, and she was like, no, I don't want to destroy his life. So she did not press charges. She really valued the friendship that they had, so she just decided it wasn't the best choice. So that brings us to March 7th of 2018. Haylee and her 2 roommates spent the evening drinking, playing games, and just having a really good time. There was a lot of laughter and dancing and happiness in the air at their house. At around 1 a.m., the girls called it a night and went to bed. Josie and Michaela, Haylee's roommates, woke up the next morning, and Haylee's bedroom door was still closed. I don't know what time they got up, but they just assumed that she was sleeping in or had gotten up and gone out with other friends without waking them. And truthfully, they really didn't think anything of it at first. Her roommate Josie said she wasn't really that alarmed when she first didn't hear from her. She didn't think, oh, something terrible happened to her, she's not answering the phone. But as 24 hours go by, Josie gets extremely concerned, and this girl Josie is the type of friend I want to have, and let me tell you why. Josie and the other roommate, I totally just blanked on her name, Michaela, use the Find My Friends app even though it's been a couple of days. So, after approximately 3 days, from what I can tell of the timeline, of them not hearing from Haylee at all, which was completely bizarre, her roommates go to his house. They just want to check on their friend and take her home if she's ready to go home. So, that's what they do. They hop in the car and they go to Orlando's house and they see, wait a minute, his car's not here. But Haylee's phone still says it's here. So they start knocking on the doors, on the windows. They're trying to see if anyone's at home. They think she's there. And they do what I believe every group of friends should do when their friend is missing. And if you get arrested for this, please don't blame me, but they break in to this house. I believe Michaela climbed through the window first, and she screamed to Josie, call 911. So Josie climbs in the window, which I don't know why she didn't just go to the door, but whatever. Inside this house, Orlando's house, is a horrific scene. Haylee is lying on Orlando's bed. She has no clothes on. She is pale. She is dead. There's no blood, no sign of a struggle, no broken objects. The house was calm and quiet, and it gave the girls this vibe of impending doom. Haylee's friend called 911, and the police arrived shortly. It did turn out that Haylee had bruises all over her body, so when I said no signs of a struggle, I meant in the room. Her autopsy confirmed that she was strangled. They said it was while she was asleep, and it was said in several articles that she didn't put up a fight, but if she's covered in bruises, I don't really know how that's the case. Y'all tell me. So, the building's CCTV camera helps the police put together some of the pieces of this puzzle. At 3:14 a.m., Haylee and Orlando enter the building. Haylee seems happy and totally willing to be with him at his place. Around 7 hours later, Orlando leaves the building. He throws something away in the trash can and drives away in a hurry. Not terribly long later, I don't have an exact time, he comes back and he spends some time inside the house. He was also in the basement, so to get to the basement of the house, you had to go, I don't know how this worked, but you had to go out the front door and around the steps and go in the basement door. So he is on camera doing that. And then he comes out and goes back upstairs. And a couple hours later, he is seen leaving the house with luggage. The police continue their investigation, and they search the house and they find a receipt for sleeping pills from a local drugstore. Originally, the police assumed that these pills were for Haylee, but they were not actually found in her system. So they believe that maybe Orlando took these in an attempt to end his own life. There was a note from Orlando written in Spanish. In this letter, he apologized for doing something really stupid. He told his father that he would see him soon, and his father had passed away a few years ago. When the police looked in the basement, there was a Rosie said when she first learned that he had gotten away to Nicaragua before they could get to him, her first thought was, no way, he got away with murder. When he arrived in Nicaragua, Orlando's mother picked him up from the airport. She took him home to the small town where they lived. Now, I read a couple varying things. I read that the town that they lived in lacked proper medical care, so he couldn't get his head wound checked out. I also read that he made another attempt on his life, and so he was taken to the hospital about an hour and a half away from his small town that he lived in. I can't confirm either of those things, but I wanted to give you everything that I knew. At the hospital, someone actually recognized him there and informed the police, and he was arrested before he could leave or get away. So here is the point where things get tricky, and I don't think I've ever covered a case like this. Orlando has dual citizenship from the USA and Nicaragua. Now, since he is a citizen, the officers were not obligated to extradite him back to America to stand trial for Haylee's murder. So they didn't. But they did keep him in jail there. The United States and Nicaragua basically tried to come to terms for over a year to figure out how this case would be mostly forgotten, and their stories just get overlooked. It's really clear that Orlando tried to escape the consequences of his actions by fleeing to another country, but he ended up with a much harsher punishment. Excuse me. Sorry. On February 4th, 2020, Orlando went back to court to appeal his conviction. His defense also requested that he should have another psychological evaluation and that he was insane during her murder. On March 10th, 2020, almost 2 years to the day, the appeal was denied. However, he was given another psychological evaluation. If Orlando ever gets out of prison in Nicaragua and sets foot in the United States, he could be tried in New York because of extradition laws. Gordon Anderson, Haylee's dad, said this of his daughter to close out this case. Haylee was kind and compassionate. She always saw the good in people, which is what made her want to pursue nursing, so she could help other people. She was someone who made a huge difference in this world. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me tonight for this case. I am really sorry that it is a day late. I just could not find time until Sunday evening to film it for you. Now we're gonna have a train in the background because it's, 8 p.m. Hopefully that is not too distracting. I can't believe that this guy almost got away with murder. I think it is crazy that someone recognized him at the hospital. That really means that her murder, went worldwide because, or, United States and Nicaragua at least. But how many cases have we covered here on the channel? Or how many other cases have you heard other true crime artists cover that you never saw anything about on the news, on YouTube, anywhere? I know that I have covered so many cases that before they were suggested to me, I knew nothing about. So I just thought it was completely crazy that someone in a completely different country recognized him and turned him in. And he was at a hospital, but he was actually arrested before he could escape the hospital.